Hey folks, James coming at you here. Gonna do a tutorial on how I patch gel coat. What we're looking at here is a skiff that I designed and built. It's a technical poling skiff. It's 18 feet long, about 60 inches wide at the stern. It's got a 71-inch max beam. And when spraying the gel coat, when wet sanding the gel coat, I got a couple little sand throughs. Just 4 little spots on here that I need to touch up. And I figure what better time than to do a quick video on how I would go about it. This method will work for little scratches, chips, blemishes. If you've got an older boat and you've wet sanded the gel coat out to the point of getting sand throughs, this method works really well. Works for me. As most folks know, there is definitely more than one way to skin a cat. So if you've got another method and it works for you, that's great. This is how I go about doing it though. Gonna need a few things. First thing you're gonna need is some 80 grit sandpaper, which I have a little piece right here. It'll be more than enough. Gonna need some acetone. Gonna need some, I use wax-free gel coat or no wax in my gel coat. Laminating gel coat. You're gonna need the gel coat. Gonna need some catalyst, some MEKP. Gonna need some gloves. Gonna need a lint-free rag. Dust mask, a respirator. Folks, I can't say it enough, wear your PPE. This stuff right here has caused so much damage to my skin that I really shouldn't even be working with it at all anymore, but I've got a few projects left to go. So stick around and we'll get this thing rolling. Okay, so I've gone through. I like to mark out, sorry about the lighting. I like to mark out everything I'm going to be working on or sanding on. I like to mark those areas out. I just use a carpenter's pencil. You can see right in here is one of my sand throughs. And basically I just scuffed that area up with a little bit of 80 grit sandpaper. Wiped it down with acetone. Got all those areas that I was talking about wiped down. Now we're ready to mix some gel coat. Alright folks, so bear with me here. Still new to this video thing. I've got my mill gauge out. I've got my gel coat. And I've catalyzed this gel coat at 2%, which is perfect for today's weather. I've added my surfacing agent here. Again, I use laminating resin or wax-free, no wax added resin and gel coats. So with gel coat and polyester products being air inhibited, they won't fully cure out in the presence of air. You're going to want to add some form of surfacing agent like this Whitaker stuff that I use here. Patch aid, sanding aid, Duratec high gloss, something like that. And basically what we're going to do, we're going to mix it up. Now I know I don't have a glove on. I don't plan on getting this stuff on me right now. What we're going to do is after we got it all mixed up, our areas are already prepped. We're going to go over to the boat and apply some gel coat. Alright, here we go folks. Hopefully this will show up for us. I can't see anything in the viewfinder here, but right here is a little spot that needed touched up. And what we're going to do, now that we're all prepped up, the gel coat's mixed, areas prepped, sanded, acetone wiped. We're just going to take a little stick, just kind of dab it in there. Make it as smooth as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect because you are going to have to come back and wet sand and buff this out, feather in the edges. But get it nice and smooth if you can. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take this little tool here. It's called a mill gauge. We're going to turn it to the right setting, or the right side. We're going to measure our wet film thickness. Now I'm looking for somewhere between 5 and 10 mils thick on this little repair. It's pretty small. Wasn't terrible. So let's see where we're at on here and show you how to do this. Okay, so all we're going to do, we're going to press this edge right here into our wet gel coat, and each one of these little spots here is at a different height, and you press it in until you hit the hard surface, and you should pull it off. Let's go ahead and push it in. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we are 6 mils thick at least. And we'll turn it around this way and push it in. Right there. That's the, I don't know if it's going to show up or not, but we are at 7 mils thick. I'm going to leave it at that. That is perfect. Just come back through and kind of touch up where we push the mill gauge in. Again, trying to get it as smooth as possible just to save yourself some work later on. Now once that cures, we'll come back and we'll wet sand it. Then we'll buff it. Alright y'all, it's been probably about 14 hours now since I did these repairs yesterday. I just let them sit overnight, finish curing out. So one of the questions I get asked is, when we do these repairs, how do we feather them back in, wet sand them back in, and how do we avoid sanding through the original gel coat out here when we're sanding this? And trust me, if you don't take some precautions, it's going to happen. So you'll see what I typically do is I'll either put some tape around it like this, and that'll give me a barrier so that I'm not actually touching out here. But I'll also use a guide coat. I'll use a carpenter's pencil like this, and that kind of gives me a guide coat. I like the carpenter's pencil over your dry guide coats because it doesn't wash off when you're wet sanding. So I'll hit this with some 400, 600, and 800 grit sandpapers, and then I'll do the final buff on it with some 3M high gloss gel coat compound. One of the things you'll notice when using the tape like I do is, see around the edges here, as you're sanding, the water gets into the tape. It kind of causes some damage to the tape and stuff, but don't worry about it. You've knocked the high spots off of your repair. Again, I used some 400 for that. Now I'm going to go ahead and peel the tape, and I'm going to lightly hit it one more time with the 400 just to take these edges down. And when I start working on this, I'm not going to be sanding back and forth and up and down. I'm going to be starting in the middle and working my way out like so. And what that's going to do is, instead of sanding here, we're only sanding on that high spot from our repair. Alright, so I'm going to see if I can show y'all how to do this with my high-tech sanding block. I use a multitude of tools for sanding. This one's a piece of a 2x2 I cut off. I do have many different shapes and sizes, but I got a relatively flat big area here, so I just want to kind of touch it. Just gonna work yourself towards the edges. Concentrating on going from the center to the outer edges, and that's going to feather that whole repair down to the original gel coat for you. And it's not really wet sanding, it's more damp sanding, if you will. Alright, I think that's good. Yep, that's it. So now we'll move up to 600 grit and show you how I do that. Okay, so I went ahead, I circled the repair area here just because it's going to start to disappear on us real quick on this camera. And I went ahead and I put my guide coat down, my scribble. Remember the carpenter pencil trick? Just scribble over your repair. And I go outside of the repair a little bit. It's okay. Just tells you if you're hitting on the outside too much with your paper. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and hit it with a little bit of water. And using that same sanding block, let's see if I can get it here. Using that same sanding block, I'm going to go over it on a diagonal and then cross hatch that diagonal. And what you're doing is at this point, we're just trying to sand out the 400 grit sanding scratches. The repair's already been taken down really close. And as we take out those 400 grit scratches, we will then begin to get a shinier surface, and we'll know when we're just about ready to hit with some buffing compound. And folks, you can't see your work when it's wet like that, so you want to dry the surface. And now we're ready to go back with some 800 grit and then the final buff. So let's do this final sanding. Again, guide coat, guide markings are on. Same high quality sanding block that I've been using, only with 800 grit. And we're going to do the same crosshatch that we've been doing. Just take it till the pencil marks are gone. You don't need to go any deeper than that. Now I've went one way here, folks, and I've been doing this a long time, so I'm going to go ahead and go the other way. I strongly recommend, if you haven't done much body work or done much wet sanding, don't continue to sand without your guide coat. It's very critical to avoid sand throughs, which is some of the spots that I've repaired here on this hull. So, you know, if you don't want to be going back through the repair you just made, use the guide coat. And now we're ready for some compound. Alright, so went a little overboard with the compound. The compound I'm using here is 3M high gloss gel coat compound. And guys, I've used a lot of different compounds. This 3M stuff is my favorite for gel coat. I use a couple other manufacturers for paints and stuff, but for the gel coat, this 3M high gloss gel coat compound seems to be my favorite and the best I've worked with. Hopefully this isn't too loud, but I'm just going to run over it with the buffer real quick and show you all what it looks like. I'm using a little cheap Harbor Freight air die grinder style buffer, so let's see how it goes. Give it a quick wipe down. Oh, got a little moisture on it there. And there you go, folks. Wet sanded, buff. You cannot see the repair. Not even a hint that that repair was there. So that's how you handle that. Let me know if you got any questions. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. Thank you.